blue and red lights were flashing across my front porch when the cop stepped out of his cruiser and told me to step away from the vehicle. His hand rested on his holster like I was some criminal. Behind him stood 3 HOA board members led by a woman in a pink blazer with sunglasses big enough to block out common sense. That was Karen Reynolds. She'd just called the cops on me because I told her I wasn't in her HOA. What she didn't know yet was that every inch of ground she was standing on belonged to me. I was their new landlord. It all started 3 weeks earlier when I moved back to my late grandfather's property. The old house sat just outside the city, a quiet place surrounded by trees and the smell of pine. My grandfather, Harold Davis, had been a veteran, a good man who believed in hard work and honesty. After he passed, I inherited his land and thought I'd fix up the place live simply and breathe some clean air for a change. On my first morning, I was mowing the yard when I noticed 2 people staring at me from the sidewalk. One of them was her Karen clipboard tucked under her arm like it was a weapon. "Excuse me, sir," she called. "You can't just mow the community green space without approval." I turned off the mower, confused. "Community. This is my yard." Her smile was thin. "All front lawns in this neighborhood are under HOA jurisdiction. You'll need to attend orientation." Orientation. For mowing my own grass. I almost laughed, but she wasn't joking. Over the next few days, I got letters stuffed in my mailbox, paint violation, unauthorized flower pots, even a warning about my porch swing. A swing. My grandfather built it himself, but apparently it didn't match community standards. I could have ignored her, but something felt off. I dug into the old estate files and discovered something strange. The HOA's common areas, parks, fences, even the clubhouse were technically part of my inherited land. The association didn't own them. My grandfather did. Which meant by law, they now belonged to me. So when Karen showed up again with 2 board members pointing at my fence and demanding I comply, I finally said it. "I'm not in your HOA." Her face turned red. "Oh, you don't get to choose. Everyone who lives here is. Well, I said we'll see about that." That's when she called the police. So here we were, flashing lights, my dog barking, neighbors peeking through curtains like it was a TV show. The officer asked for my ID, then turned to Karen. "Do you have legal documents proving his property's under HOA authority?" She froze, fumbled her clipboard, and muttered something about internal files. The officer nodded slowly. "Not county records, then." She didn't answer. He turned back to me. "Keep your paperwork handy, sir. People like this don't back down easy." I smiled. "Oh, officer, I'm counting on it." That night, sitting on my porch swing, the same one she'd called a violation, I realized this was bigger than a feud. Karen wasn't just enforcing rules. She was addicted to control. But I wasn't about to be another one of her frightened neighbors. I gathered every document, I had every deed and survey my grandfather left behind. The deeper I looked, the clearer it became their HOA had been running on assumptions, not law. A few days later, a notice appeared on my door: mandatory HOA meeting attendance required. Fine, I thought, if they want a meeting, they'll get one. The clubhouse was full that evening. Karen sat at the head of a long table, smiling like a politician at a fundraiser. "Mr. Davis," she said sweetly, "we've received multiple complaints about your non-compliance. If you agree to pay the fines, we can settle this peacefully." I leaned back. "Appreciate the offer, but I'm not under your HOA." Her smile vanished. "That's not how this works. You live here, you follow the bylaws." I raised an eyebrow. "Do you have proof my property's part of your jurisdiction?" She hesitated, flipping through papers. "It's in our records." "Perfect," I said, "because county land records say something very different." A murmur spread through the room. One older neighbor asked quietly, "What do you mean?" I said that this land, your clubhouse, your park, your so-called common areas were part of my grandfather's estate. The HOA never renewed its lease. Legally, you're standing on Davis land." The room went silent. Karen's face drained of color, then twisted in anger. "You're lying." I shrugged. "Then prove me wrong." She slammed her hand on the table. "We'll handle this legally." "I look forward to it," I said, walking out as whispers followed me. That night I couldn't sleep. I wasn't scared, I was furious. Furious at how she bullied good people with fake authority. But a small part of me wondered, what if I'd made a mistake? What if my grandfather's paperwork wasn't as airtight as I thought? For a moment, doubt crept in. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't belong here. I almost thought about letting it go. Then I found my grandfather's old letter in the estate box, just a few lines in his shaky handwriting. Never let loud people rewrite quiet truths. That was all I needed. The next morning, the HOA office looked like chaos, moving trucks outside, files being hauled away. Karen was pacing, shouting into her phone. When she saw me, she forced a smile. "Mr. Davis, we're handling some administrative updates." "Sure you are," I said. "Maybe you should check which land those updates are sitting on." That evening, they called another emergency meeting. The room was packed, the air thick with tension. Karen stood with two lawyers beside her. "Our attorneys confirm our documents are valid," she declared. "That's not true," I said, stepping forward. "The county confirmed your amendments were never approved. The HOA has no legal authority here." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Her lawyers whispered urgently to her. Then one of them looked up and said quietly, "He's right." Karen's jaw dropped. "That's not possible." "Oh, it's possible," I said. "You've been enforcing fake rules for years." The room erupted, neighbors cheering, others stunned. Karen's face turned white as chalk. "You think you've won?" she hissed. "No," I said calmly. "I think the neighborhood finally has." She stormed out, heels slamming like thunder. For a moment it felt over, but with people like Karen, peace never lasts. That night, a car idled outside my gate for nearly 10 minutes. Two figures sat inside one smoking one, watching my house. When I finally turned on the floodlights, they stepped out Karen and some big guy in a black jacket with Metro Security on the sleeve. "Mr. Davis," she shouted, "we're conducting a property inspection." At midnight, I called back, "You planning to measure grass or rob me?" The man hit the gate. "Open up, sir. This is an official inquiry." I raised my phone camera recording. "You can try that line again in court." Karen glared, voice shaking with rage. "Enjoy your little kingdom while it lasts." They left in a cloud of gravel. The next morning I sent the footage to Officer Daniels. His reply came fast. That guy wasn't a licensed security agent. She's facing impersonation charges. For once, I actually laughed. Karen Reynolds, Queen of HOA, had finally crossed into felony territory. Then came the letter, a formal apology from the HOA law firm. "Mrs. Reynolds has resigned." I read it twice, hardly believing it. But tucked beneath it was another envelope, handwritten. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. Some of us still know the truth about what your grandfather did." K. That line hit me harder than I expected. My grandfather. The man who taught me honesty. I tore through the old estate box again and found an unopened envelope sealed in red wax. Inside. "If this land still stands, know that I did what I must to protect it. Some things were never meant to be known." It haunted me. That night I walked down to the lake behind the house. Under the reeds, something metal glinted, a rusted sign reading, "Davis Environmental Reserve, 1974. An environmental reserve? I'd never heard of that. Then I heard rustling behind me. Karen, soaked from the rain, holding a mud-stained folder. "You don't know the truth, Davis," she shouted. "Your grandfather wasn't a hero. He stole this land." "What are you talking about?" She held up the folder, papers flapping in the wind. "He used veterans' funds to buy it for half price. He lied to everyone." Before I could answer, lightning cracked. The folder flew from her hands into the lake. She lunged after it and slipped. I dove in after her, grabbing her arm as she fought the water. "Stop. You'll drown," she gasped, trembling. "You don't know what it's like watching everything you built crumble." I pulled her to shore, soaked and shaking. "You don't have to keep fighting, Karen. It's over. But she pushed me away and disappeared into the woods, leaving me with one haunting question. Was she right? The next day I found the box under the dock. Inside were papers, a photograph of my grandfather shaking hands with businessmen under a sign reading, Clearway Development. On the back, 4 words, "Forgive me for this." My stomach dropped. He'd made a dirty deal. The HOA's entire existence started from it. Officer Daniels came by later. "You're not responsible for his mistakes," he said. "You're cleaning them up." Maybe so, but it didn't feel like it. I turned the box over to the county office anyway. A week later, they sent a report the deal had been illegal, but my grandfather had reversed it himself, paying everything back. He'd fixed it before he died. That night, Karen returned one last time. My front door was open, drawers tossed gasoline can on the porch. She stood there, shaking eyes wild. "If those papers stay out there," she cried, "everyone here loses their homes." "Burning evidence won't fix that," I said quietly. She raised the lighter hand, trembling. "Truth ruined me, Davis. Then don't let it ruin anyone else." For a second, she froze. Then the lighter slipped from her fingers, hitting the wet grass. A spark jumped flames, spread fast across the fence. I pulled her back as the fire roared smoke, turning the sky orange. Sirens wailed in the distance. When Daniels arrived, Karen was sitting on the curb, sobbing. "I just wanted it to stop," she whispered. He crouched beside her. "It's over, ma'am." She didn't resist when they led her away. I stood there watching the fence burn to ashes. The land was finally clean of lies of fear of the ghosts that ruled it for decades. And in the silence that followed, I realized something my grandfather must have known all along. Truth doesn't always make you proud, but it always sets you free.